Hello and welcome to Uncontested with Sam, Kevin, and your host Matt. How's it going, boys?
It do be going. It do be going.
We do, we do be going and we do be chilling.
Yeah, we chilling with Gojo out here.
What guests for the pod?
Oh, damn.
Special guest,
Hey,
Gojo.
Gojo, who's your favorite NBA player?
Me, huh?
Oh, that's fun. I like that. Dark Horse. Let's go. All right, so let's get right into it, boys. I was seeing a very recent article. Mark Jackson recently said, and I wanted to bring this one up to build off of the conversation that we had last episode, mainly about like a lot of the all-time great NBA players. Um, Basically, he said that Magic Johnson and Larry Bird would like essentially succeed in today's NBA. And I think that's a very interesting conversation to have because a lot of the times we look at the past NBA and we're looking at it and we're just like, I don't think any of these guys can really compare to the players that are in modern day. Much like the whole Michael Jordan LeBron conversation, so on and so forth. So Mark Jackson essentially was saying how they would succeed mainly because he said that they would succeed mainly for the offensive players, which I think makes the most sense. Because with all the rules that we have right now, having a player like Larry Bird, you'd barely be able to touch the guy. Same thing with Magic Johnson. Sam, what do you think about that?
I think it's a very interesting take. I feel like Mark Jackson's argument is kind of on the basis of pure like physique, which I think the guys back then were a little bit built differently compared to some of the lanky boys now that we see entering this league. But we do have to recall that the era is about 3-point shooting. It's been that for the past Steph Curry era, we can call it, for the past at least 5 to 8 years. And that's something that they've never developed. I think, like we said from our previous pod, that Magic Johnson is a true point guard in that sense, that he's better as a facilitator, which is, I think we kind of see in the eyes of a Luka Doncic, who has a little bit of that scoring prowess as well, or even the OG Russell Westbrook in that sense. Larry Bird, I don't know how he would fit. I think he has the IQ to play in this game really well, but I don't know in terms of actual skill set if it would be as competitive, in my opinion.
I kind of compare him a little bit. I feel like you could maybe make an argument for like Jokic, like big dudes who just sort of know how to do whatever they please in that kind of sense.
But Larry Bird isn't that big.
No, I guess not. Not as big as Jokic, but like he's still a big dude. And didn't he win like the 3-point contest a bunch of times?
Probably, but he's from Indiana, so that's already like an out. Like you're from Indiana, yeah.
Kevin, what about you?
I don't know. I think this is kind of an instance of Mark Jackson saying something just to say something. Like, yeah, Magic Johnson and Larry Bird probably would succeed in the NBA today, at least to some extent, because they're Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. They're two of the best basketball players to ever play the game. Of course, they're still gonna they would still be good if they were still in the game today. I don't think they would be as successful as they were because the game has changed so much, but I think that's just kind of an empty statement almost. Like I think Larry Bird would shoot threes and shoot a lot more threes than Avery did in his career if he was in the game today. And like Sam said, like Magic Johnson would be more of a facilitator, and he would do he would kind of be like the Halliburton style of player, where he can still score and he can still do things like that, but he's like his main thing is dishing out amazing assists all the time and like facilitating on the court. I don't know. I think Mark Jackson is trying to stay relevant wherever he can now because he's well past his prime, even for a GOAT coach.
Well, he's unemployed, so I think it's enough. said about how important he is anymore. So
damn, spin fire out here. Boys, I don't know how to break it to you, but every single basketball podcast ever made and ever to be made will now become irrelevant. LeBron and JJ have now combined their efforts to absolutely destroy us all of basketball content. No, but they do have a podcast coming out. I believe their first episode came out very recently. I was telling you guys this before our show. I think it would have been absolutely hysterical if LeBron didn't have a very detailed look at how he plays the game. Like JJ, like in his own podcast, he talks a little bit more or a lot more in depth on like how the game is actually played and like the thought process behind everything. I just think it would have been fucking hilarious if LeBron was just like, oh yeah, I just grabbed the ball and I shot it. Like, that would have been so good. I would have laughed my ass off if that were the case. But no, lo and behold, who would have thought that the GOAT or the possible GOAT is just very, very smart at the game of basketball? Who would have thought?
Yeah,
we can basically go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, I think that podcast is going to be really interesting to dive into in certain aspects because I think they're so detail oriented and technical oriented that any basketball noob is going to have a really hard time jumping into that pod and finding entertainment from it, whereas the diehard fans are going to be like, this is the greatest thing to ever exist in the history of the world.
I see that. I feel that. I was actually going to ask if the content is more on the entertaining side or more on the educational side. I think they're both like super fascinating. But Sam, as far as like entertaining goes, and I don't want to talk about their podcast too much on this episode. I just think it's an interesting conversation. What do you think of like these old, or not old, but like these players, these professional players, like coming out and like having their own podcast, like Jason Kelce and Travis Kelce? Their podcast is awesome. What do you think of like their stuff, their content versus maybe like a non-professional athlete having their content? I know they're two different things, but how would you view that? Like, would you think that one is just better than the other, like historically or whatever? Or do you think that it's kind of like all these pro athletes are just sort of going to take over?
It's definitely kind of interesting. I mean, I think we've heard a lot, like CJ McCollum's podcast. I mean, I've heard some of Josh Hart's podcast. I feel like with young people, that's the thing. Like young people doing podcasts, I think it's like really stupid because like they just don't really have that much insight of the game, or they're not as relevant to the game. Whereas you see like, like you see like the Travis Kelce, like it's almost like the Shaq argument. It's like you got a ring, so you can actually talk about things. And I feel like in this case, it's like, even from JJ's podcast, it's like he's not even like necessarily the moderator in it. Like he's not the one that's being the real host of it either. It's a good balance between, two very smart, high IQ, former NBA players. Whereas you see stuff like Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, on their Showtime podcast, where it's like they kind of just do shit talking, and it's entertaining more than like actual insight, in my opinion. Just because I don't think they actually. I think it's great that they bring on like a lot of former athletes and then they give their, backstory spiel. I mean, we hear stuff about like why J.R. Smith threw a bowl of soup at his former coach, like you hear that kind of stuff. But I don't feel like there's a lot of like real insight into actually understanding what this game is and what it is becoming. Where they see with a Bron and a JJ. I mean, we see JJ, he's going after Pat Bev. The thing that's mutual is that they both just hate Pat Bev. So, I think it's just a win-win at that point. But I think it's gonna be really entertaining. It's gonna be both entertaining, but like Kevin said, I think it's gonna be people like myself, like us, who are just almost infatuated with basketball. Maybe to a lesser degree now that we're a little bit busy with our lives for once. That just really like to understand that like a dunk is just not a dunk. Like what's the numbers behind it? What's the science behind it? It's something that only a real baller can actually explain and can feel. I mean, we've seen Bron even coach. I mean, we call him the coach at times, and maybe for a negative reason, but I mean, we all know, regardless if you hate him or not, the man's IQ for this game is unbelievable. And to pair along with JJ, who has also great insight, I think it's just going to be really, really fun for all the basketball nerds out there.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of entertaining content and whatnot, and I'm excited to hear more about it. Hey guys, did you know that Anthony Edwards can fly? Isn't that crazy?
Wild.
God, that dunk over John Collins was absolutely nuts. You could even see, I saw like a clip of Kyle Anderson's reaction and like zoomed in on his face as the dunk was happening. And it was just like absolute shock and amazement. And I'm like, that's about all of us right now. Like, that was insane. But this brings up a question of, these new guys. And I mean, Anthony Edwards, he's been in the league for what? This is his third year, if I'm not. But
yeah, this is his third year.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So, is he going to be like the new face of the NBA? Do you think? New face of the NBA. Another guy that's coming up. Like, what are we thinking? And then after that, I want to hear our best dunkers in the league. I want to draft our best dunkers like right now. So Sam, I'll go with you first.
I'll look for Kevin because I know he put this segment in, and I think in my opinion he was probably the most blown away from what just happened with Anthony Edwards.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I think. Are we saying who's the best dunker in the league, or are we saying is the next face of the league?
If he's him, do we think Ant is him?
I mean, yeah. Like he's been so, especially this year, I feel like he's really taken that step up from his initial like first 2 years. He's kind of getting used to things. He was still amazing both years, but and now I think he's really like coming into his own and kind of carrying that Timberwolves team to some aspects. Like he is putting in all that effort and getting wins. Like there's a reason the Timberwolves are so high in the standings, and it's not Rudy Gobert. Like,
as much as I like to shit on Rudy Gobert, I don't think we can completely call it like, shit on him completely for that team, because he is going to be again one of the best defenders in the league.
Send him to France. Get him out of here. Get him out of here.
He's going to be Defensive Player of the Year again. He does do great things for that team. I think, and maybe this is a different conversation, I think Cat being injured is probably going to cause some problems with them going into the playoffs, because he's another offensive player. But it's very fascinating to see how Anthony Edwards is kind of taking that loss of points, I guess you could say, and essentially putting it on his back. He's kind of, I don't know about you guys, but I think last year we saw his emerging talent, but I didn't really see him as like the face of the Timberwolves. And now it's just like there's absolutely no question. Like he is the best. He is the guy on that team, and there's no doubt in my mind. As far as like best dunkers go, would you hate me if I said Zach LaVine?
yes.
I was like, can I hate you regardless? Or no, I'm kidding.
Oh, that's rude. All right, that's fair. Whatever. I'm just gonna go cry. No, I mean, yeah, I like Zach LaVine as a dunker. I might have to say, this might be a hot take, but one of the okay, should we exclude the dunk contest in this conversation?
Well, I think we should exclude the dunk contest every year at this point.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because I was honestly gonna say one of my favorite dunking moments in the dunk contest was when like Nate Robinson had like the kryptonite ball and he dunked over Dwight Howard. I thought that was really fucking cool. But overall dunkers, dude, how do you not say Anthony Edwards right now? Like he's just, I think like two of his biggest highlights like this year were dunks like over people. Like that guy kills it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. If I got a draft right now, best dunker, I think the notorious John Morant. I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
last season, I mean, he killed Kevin Love several times. I think I'm pretty sure.
Killed him. He killed him.
I mean, the amount of like, I mean, basically almost committing homicide throughout a lot of these games was, I think, was just amazing. I mean, the hang time and explosiveness from John Morant's dunks is it's just so fun. I think it's fun, like you said, the same like not like a tiny guy, but like a smaller like guard, just like he's not gonna like jump up in the air and do it, but he's just like I mean, John Morant's hinting at the dunk contest next year, so let's see if one of these like you know actual players will actually be in the dunk contest. But I'm gonna drop John Morant as our point guard dunker here.
Yeah, I like that one, Kevin.
Listen, I gotta go with a big man, Aaron Gordon.
Yeah.
Stop it!
No, man, come on. Mainly,
Oh,
okay.
you
Listen,
hate this man.
Yeah, ish. I have some beef with him. We've gotten past that. We've moved on, you know. But he has the standing dunks down. Like if he's under the basket, Jokic is just gonna toss him the ball, standing dunk over anyone. The other thing too is if Jokic sees a good opportunity, he's gonna throw the ball up in the air and Aaron Gordon is gonna alley oop. I'd say most of his dunks are alley oops, and they're always beautiful. They're 10 out of 10. The man's still a dunking machine.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna need to find a clip of where you completely shit talk Aaron Gordon. I really got to find something somewhere. It's got.
I know it's there. I know it's there.
um. So Damian Lillard has recently said, who was spotted, fun story, at a Portland Bulls game, which is super bizarre to see. Not sure why he would be there. I mean, I guess to support Portland, but at the same time, like, I feel like that sends really weird vibes to the media. Anyway, he came out and said Kyrie Irving is the most skilled player in the NBA. Very interesting. Which brings the question, does Kyrie have relevance in the league? Does Dallas showcase its true potential? There was one absolutely stellar win that Kyrie had recently where it was like, oh my God, that shot was amazing. It was so good. It was literally just like little boop, little toss in the air, and it was the floater was incredible. It was so good, and it was a pretty sizable distance one too. But as far as like skill goes, is he number one? I don't know if he's number one, but I feel like he's up there. Sam?
Yeah, it's tough, right? I mean, we have seen so many ball handlers, but I mean, Uncle Drew is still Uncle Drew. I have to say. We see Dame, we see Steph, we see Harden, but I mean, there's no one young and no one old. I feel like that can still be like how Kyrie is right now. I think he's in the wrong team. I think a lot of us can agree that this is not the team to really showcase his skill set. Yeah, he got the stats to show it, but I mean, we see this Mavericks team just go consistently up, down, up, down. There's nothing consistent with that. But Uncle Drew's still him. I will have to say that. I mean, he got the Uncle Drew goatee going on. I mean, he's looking like the earth's still flat, you know. So we're seeing peak Kyrie uh, coming back into this. So uh, it's a little sad, and I maybe find this similar with Kevin Durant about how irrelevant they became after the whatever happened in Brooklyn. I think that's got to be a 30 for 30 because I don't know what happened in that. That was just like the greatest miracle and the immediate disaster in like span of 2 years. Getting all these superstars, but I mean, maybe we all agree that did we even recall like Kevin Durant after his injury after Golden State? I don't think we really remembered Kevin Durant, and even now, I mean, we forget he's with the Phoenix Suns. Even though we know Devin Booker is the face of the Suns, you know?
Mm.
Same thing with Kyrie. He was always a face somewhere and then hidden behind LeBron. But maybe that's just his role. And maybe, who knows, down the line, Kyrie, Lakers. I mean, anything Lakers is the talk all the time on ESPN, but maybe that's actually the time for a reunion for LeBron and Kyrie to actually get some real buckets together.
Interesting. Kevin, if it's not Kyrie, I guess who would it be as far as like most skill wise goes? I do think Kyrie has the most interesting ISO game right now. When we're just talking about overall ISO players, like Kevin Durant, like Sam was saying, and James Harden. But as far as just overall handles, I mean, who compares to Kyrie?
Listen, in terms of handles, no one can compare to Kyrie. Like Kyrie is he's always going to be one of the goats for sick handles. He's going to be that like 2K prototype, you know, that you make your guy after, where you just like hit the stick all the time and are trying to do these whack ass dribbling combos. But outside of that, he's no longer the top guy. He's definitely not one of the best players in the league, like Dave says. I think he's arguably top 10. I would put him more top 15 in the league. I don't even think you could put him in the discussion for top 5. I think when you have other skilled players like Giannis out to talk about, like the things that Giannis does is just insane. And yeah, you can talk about Kyrie's handles and dribbles and his hooks and floaters, but like comparing him to someone like Giannis or Jason Tatum, I think those other guys are going to win out every time in the discussion of skill.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wild. That's wild. Come on, let you an old head. What are you bringing Jason Tatum up into this? What is this? This is wild. I cannot believe you put Jason Tatum as Boston Celtic. Anything about the Boston? You know you never agree.
Jason Tatum's the only thing I'll give props to the Boston Celtics for. Everything else, including Jaylen Brown, mid as hell.
All right. Fuck right off.
We just turned that topic into Boston.
We're not doing this. We're not having this conversation. Screw you. Jaylen, I will not take the Jaylen Brown slander. What kind of nonsense is that? What the fuck, man?
Let me know when they win a couple playoff games.
If you don't see Kevin next week, it's because I'm actually visiting him in Colorado very soon. And if you don't find him, well,
committing crimes.
Anyway, allegedly, Kevin. We use that word very, very religiously. Executives are talking about Bronny. What a shocker. Entering the draft will most likely happen and will attract LeBron to the time that he gets drafted to. I don't know about you guys. I've kind of had enough of this conversation. I feel like it's very obvious that wherever Bronny goes, LeBron is going to want to go too, because like that's a once in a lifetime opportunity to play with your son. I guess the question becomes, do you think LeBron is going to be loyal to the Lakers, Sam, or think he's piecing the fuck out as soon as Bronny gets drafted?
I mean, so like LeBron has said like many times that he's still like a Lakers loyalist. I know he had his whole drama with wearing that Knicks towel, post game, saying that he's kind of frustrated with how things are going, and then they'll see. But he did, announce his like loyalty to the Lakers. I mean, in all honesty, beyond the Lakers, like who wants to leave LA? Once you're in LA and you got money, like you're vibing for life. It's very interesting to hear that like executives are really thinking that Bronny can be drafted. Do you want to hear a stat line? I think it's the wildest thing for a very hyped news-wise player. 4.8 points, 2.8 rebounds, 2.1 assists, shooting less than 37%, and 3-point shooting less than 27%. I do know. I mean, obviously, kid did have open heart surgery. That delayed a lot of his game. He did play 25 games, and it seems like he's very athletic. But I mean, he's 6'4". I mean, he's got the skill set, but I don't know. When I've watched some of the games, I just been very like not that impressed, and maybe it comes with the whole baggage of like your dad's probably one of the greatest of all time, so it's like something like Michael Jordan's kid had. But I mean, people genuinely do believe that Bronny can be in this league as of you know when the league starts again next season. Um, but maybe not this contract with the Lakers, but I don't know. I think LeBron might push for some weird, awkward trade with Bronny James, but who knows? Teams might leverage Bronny James as like a huge trade asset and make it like a 2 or 3 first round pick thing. So let's see. I mean, it'll be fun to see like father son duo. I mean, like I said, like LeBron has gone down a little bit, but I mean, man's still averaging 25 points a game, which is still pretty wild. So
Yeah. Yeah, he'll always be an incredible facilitator and whatnot. Like the man just like the biggest thing about LeBron is he figures it out. No matter what, he figures it out. And I think like maybe like that stat line, that's whack. Goddamn, that's pretty gross. I don't think we would be talking about him in any other caliber other than the fact that he is LeBron's son. Um, I would obviously like to see, some stellar performance from him, like that would like because that's just great content and that's just great basketball to have like the next LeBron James or something like that. That's just like a ton of fun. Um, as far as like LeBron staying in LA, I'm on the side where I don't think he really cares that much as far as like loyalty goes, because as we have seen in the past, he is willing to do what's best for him, which is totally fine. Player movement is incredible, and it definitely is like, at some points, just like you got to do what's best for you. And I think like if that's like a goal that he really has and Bronny gets drafted somewhere else, I can't imagine that he would just be like, you know what? No, I'm going to stay here and completely take away everything that I said in the past. Kevin, are you more like prepped for him to peace out? Do you see him trying to work something out with Bronny? What's on your mind with this?
That's where I'm kind of thinking it's going to land is something like with the current stats that we were just talking about, I don't think Bronny will be that high of a draft pick outside of his name. So I'm wondering if LeBron is going to get in with the GM of the Lakers and be like, "Hey, yo, listen, if you take my boy second round, I'll reduce my salary that I want next year or something like that." Like some stuff like that to encourage the Lakers to take Bronny or try and get Bronny early. And I think LeBron will want to stay in LA and do everything he can to stay in LA. But at the end of the day, if Bronny goes to the Knicks, LeBron's going to the Knicks.
Yeah, I do. I want to impose something. I wonder if teams, because I think that's a good possibility that he gets drafted in the second round or whatever, just from skill wise. But I wonder if teams will draft him much, much earlier just for the possibility that LeBron would want to play on their team. Like would it like I don't think it'd be the craziest thing in the world for like Bronny to get drafted to like I don't know. Let's take a look. Let's really quickly take a look at who the bottom teams are right now. The Washington Wizards, Pistons, Portland Trail, Spurs. Can you imagine if the Spurs got Bronny and then made a trade for LeBron?
very good.
Like,
wild.
That could be a possibility. That would be insane.
Bronny. Let's do it. Right. Let's run it. I'll talk to that.
Yeah, dude, and like maybe if LeBron could coach him well, then you have a future Wemby Bronny like duo. Like that could be busted.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully he doesn't land in Detroit or the Wizards though, because that's when I'm just like, I don't know if LeBron would want to go there. I don't know if it's worth it at that point. Because that's really fucking gross. Boys, I want you to answer me one simple question. What month is it? What month are we in?
March.
March Madness, boys. It is March Madness. I know we're an NBA podcast, but we got to bring it up. It's one of the biggest things in sports entertainment. I know we all have brackets going into this. I'm sure we all have our opinions on who we want to win. I know Kevin really wants Marquette to win, and it'll never happen. Sorry, buddy.
I know. I'm aware.
Yeah, they are a 2 seed though. That's pretty impressive. That is very impressive for them. But who takes it all? Sam.
Like, honest to God, or who I want? That's a real question.
Do both.
Well,
we can
who I want? Bird up. Marquette, Golden Eagles, Shaka Smart. Emphasis on smart has really changed how this Marquette team looks. Fuck Coach Wojo. If you know, you know. Couldn't really do anything with this Marquette team for having that Duke lineage and having the, I call the white boy lineage, no offense to my homies. But, you know, it's a lot different team. I mean, even looking at the bracket itself, I don't find Florida that strong going into the next round. I mean, not to trash on Western Kentucky, but hell, did we even know that was a real university? Let's be real. Should be shut down for Roll Tide. But only threat I find is maybe Kentucky going to the Sweet 16 because by the time we get to the Elite Eight, we're going to probably play Houston, and that will be the real test. But it would be fun to see maybe a UConn Marquette battle the Big East. That'd be kind of fun. But for some reason, doing so many different tourney picks and all this, I'm consistently getting Iowa State as being the winners, though. And I'm thinking about Iowa State has just been really fun to watch. The amount of upsets they've had against real top 10 teams has been really interesting. And looking at their bracket, I mean, they don't really face a threat until the Elite Eight, where they'd probably face UConn. I think that side of the bracket's pretty weak and almost just a breeze through the park for them. So, but I do find Iowa State as my true winner for the tournament.
Iowa State has such a good defense too. When they want to, they can like fucking put a brick wall in front of you, and it's kind of nuts. Like that's another thing that I actually like really love about college basketball is like, yeah, you're not necessarily going to have like the high scoring games and whatnot that you would in the NBA, but like some of the defense is actually like wild. Like you don't see full court press in the NBA. You don't, I mean, you'll see the man on man obviously, but you don't see an entire fucking team like trying to stop your ass. Like it's super fascinating. Kevin, I know that you want Marquette to win. Who do you think will win?
Listen, this is UConn's bracket to lose. Like,
for all the dogs.
There is no reason UConn doesn't get to at least the Final Four, and I have them winning it all in a vast majority of my brackets. Like, they're such a good team, and having been a Marquette fan and seen the games that we've played against UConn always wipes the floor with us. And we are a really good team. We wipe the floor with almost every other Big East team. And UConn embarrasses us every time. So I've really seen how good of a team they can be. And I think other teams are going to have a big problem when they actually face them. Speaking of Iowa State, I on paper, every year, they look like they're going to go so far every single year. And every single year, they lose in like the second round. every time. So I've gotten burned by them so many times in my brackets. I refuse to get burned by them again.
Yeah, I don't really see them losing to Drake or Washington, so I think they can make it past.
I mean, Drake always wins. First off, Drake is Drake, so real.
Whatever. All right, listen, I would love University of Illinois to win. They're a fantastic team, although they had some losses during the season. That kind of like obviously makes me a little nervous. Like for them to win it all, plus they're Illinois and they just have literally the worst luck in the entire world. However, I can tell you teams that I really don't want to win. Duke can go fuck itself. I think Houston is a sham, and they will totally lose. Let's see. I'm like literally looking through my bracket right now, and I'm just like looking at all these teams, and I'm just like, I don't like you. I don't like you. I don't like you.
What about North Carolina? That I have them winning it in a couple of mine.
North Carolina is an interesting team. I think one of the things that this year is fascinating to me is that it seems like, because most of the time the number one seeds don't really actually make it to the Final Four. At least all of them don't necessarily make it to the Final Four. I think this might be the year where at least, like, I think at least UConn and the Tar Heels will probably make it to the Final Four because they're both really fucking good teams. Like I said, I think Houston's a fucking sham. I can't wait for Purdue to just get absolutely stomped.
Yes, Purdue is the one team I am rooting for their demise. Zach Edey is the most overrated basketball player in college in the past 10 years, I think.
Damn.
He is a big man that can shoot free throws. That's it. That is it.
College.
That is it.
Yeah.
Like, and he just gets every foul call ever of all time. Refs are like, Zach Edey, I kind of like this guy. I'm gonna make some good calls for him. I hate it.
Can we all agree though? I think the one team we all just mutually disagree that's not from a big conference are the Zags. Fuck Gonzaga. They're an absolute waste of talent. Should not exist as a university.
Damn.
Should not exist as people. I don't know who allowed them to exist at all. I think it's just a disgrace to what college basketball should be. When I have children, I'll make sure that the school that really wants them is Gonzaga, only to turn them down, and then for them to go to community college.
Oh my god! Wow, I wasn't expecting the Gonzaga hate. I won't lie to you. That kind of came out of left field for me. I mean, like, Kevin, I'm on your team, man. Fuck Purdue. I can't stand them. Hopefully TCU beats them, or even Gonzaga or Kansas. I don't know, man. Kansas is interesting. I don't know if Kansas, like, I'm typically a fan of Kansas, but this year has been a little weird for them, so I don't know. I don't really see them as being coming out on top. Creighton looks pretty solid. Let's see, Arizona. I feel like ASU always looks pretty good, but they end up like either making it in the Final Four or they lose in the second round and ruin everybody's bracket ever.
Isn't that sounds about right?
Isn't that what happened last year? They lost in like the first or second round, and that like eliminated 75% of brackets or something.
So someone big did. I don't remember if it was Arizona or not, but it was definitely like a big 2 seed or something.
It was insane, dude. I got to make a bracket of just like literally all upsets, like the 16th seed just making it or something. I don't know. Fucking Long Beach, why not?
I stand by Creighton as another overrated team where on paper they're going to look really, really good. And they might even look really good the first round because they're playing up the 14 seed or 12 seed or whatever. But
no, they're not. You're right.
After that, when they actually have real competition, they're going to choke. They're going to fold so fast. They're going to fold like paper.
So do you think I know we're kind of like extending this, but I don't give a fuck. This is really fun to talk. Do you think South Carolina beats Oregon, or do you think it's the other way around? Because I think Oregon wins, and then you're talking about Oregon versus Creighton, which I don't know.
mean, checks over stripes, right? And that's what Drake said. So I mean, Oregon has been the. I mean, you're wearing Nike gear, you gotta win. That's how it works. You wearing Under Armour? I'm sorry, you cannot play. Even though, actually, even worse, you're wearing Adidas playing basketball. Like, just quit. Like, stop it. It's not a real thing. South Carolina has had some really good wins, but Oregon has had some recent wins. I think has made them really convincing, and I think just with that like momentum, I got Oregon going to the next round, and I think even going into the Sweet 16, I just don't think Creighton can even hang. I think I go along with Kevin's lines. Maybe it's just the Big East bias, but
yeah.
If you're from Nebraska and you're a fan from Nebraska, like, sorry, but fuck you. I mean, it's just like you're not in a great situation in terms of any sport, and it's just keep trying. Good luck.
It's Nebraska. Everybody hates Nebraska. I can't stand it. I don't want to drive through it. We're literally, my wife and I are going to be driving to Colorado to see Kevin, and I know that I'm going to have to deal with Nebraska. I know it. I hate
worst
it.
part.
I hate it. But it's going to have to happen. But
Omaha.
yeah, I think the Ducks. Listen, the Ducks. You guys have to beat the Gamecocks. I'm sorry. Any team that's called the Cocks, you gotta beat them. I don't know what else to tell you there. Like they're a pretty solid team, I guess, but come on, guys. Anyway, sorry for the absolute rant of March Madness, but that is what this is. This is absolute madness. It's one of the greatest tournaments ever. I fucking love watching this shit all the time. I think the first round starts on Thursday, correct?
Is there, and you know what'd be wild is if a team named after a hat beats the best team in the country of UConn. Yo, if Stetson just beats UConn, a hat just beat the greatest team to play in the past. I actually this UConn team is probably one of the best teams I've ever seen play in the past like decade.
Yeah.
The way they play, I mean, they kicked our ass 3 times now, and I think it clearly shows that. But I mean, I'm hoping that they lose to a hat, because that's just I don't know how you make that as a. I need to talk to a lot of these schools because I don't know how they allowed some of these mascot names to happen. It's just wild. Longwood, come on, man, come on, stop it. That can't be a real place. That's not a real place.
Come on, Longwood. Seriously, what the fuck? What are we doing? What are we doing, Mr.
Not real.
James Madison University? Why would I want to go to that man's university? Why would I ever want to do that? Vermont? It shouldn't exist as a state. I'm eliminating states as the. Telling you, elect me. I will eliminate states for you guys. We don't
Vermont,
need 50
no
stars on the
more.
flag.
Wow. I didn't realize that we were going into a presidential candidate over here. Goddamn. I'm going to stop the podcast before we really get off the rails. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching the show. Appreciate it. You could click like, subscribe to the podcast on YouTube. I think that's where we are where most of our stuff is right now. I think we're on Spotify as well. But yeah, give us a follow, give us a like, and have a good night. Peace.
Vote NIAC 2024.